Jody, interesting day to talk about data and privacy based on Marriott's announcement about their data hack and 500 million accounts being hacked. Talk a little bit about Vizio's approach to data privacy.
So, as we were talking earlier, so we've had a sort of interesting 2 or 3 years in terms of the evolution of our privacy regime and our privacy policies and how we treat data, which all dates back to, frankly, some legal turbulence that we went through that I think is pretty common knowledge in the industry. And part of that turbulence were some discussions that we had with the FTC, which was a little bit of a bad news, good news situation for us. The bad news was we were the first smart TV manufacturer to actually have such a discussion with the FTC. The FTC had never really taken a look at smart TV data collection and privacy regimes around it. What turned out being good in that process was the fact that it put us in a position to actually sit down with the FTC and say, well, okay, what do you want to see? What do you think a privacy regime should look like on a smart TV? So it became more of a collaboration as opposed to the FTC simply throwing down some ground rules and walking away. So it was great because that back and forth generated really almost what I think our industry views as the Vizio standard for smart TV data collection. And it also prepared us in advance for a little bit of what's going on with GDPR because there were certain things around what the notification needs to look like, how it needs to read, that are now part of GDPR that we had already done coming out of that FTC negotiation. There were 2 aspects of that were kind of critical in terms of what a smart TV notification regime needs to look like now. One of which was, the FTC's comment was, look, we're pretty sure that when you bury the data notification on page 26 of 30 pages of terms of service, the average consumer is not seeing that.
Right.
So they're scrolling through with their remote during the setup process to the very end of the process because they want to start watching TV. And so they're not reading every page of that, and so they're going clear to the end and pressing, what do I need to click to start watching TV? Right. So they said, what we would like to see is a data collection notification that is separate and prominent from the rest of the terms of service. So on our system, during the setup process, there's a completely separate screen that says TV viewing data. And then it walks through, here's how we do it, here's what we're doing, here's who we give it to, and here's what they do with it. And then it says either I agree or you don't agree, or decline, I think it's decline. Mm-hmm. Data collection is default off until someone clicks agree. Yep. So it is a true opt-in regime. And so we pushed that new regime to our entire footprint of TVs in February 2017. And so we've been fully FTC compliant ever since. And I mean, we've unboxed TVs from all the other manufacturers, and I can tell you that not everybody is FTC compliant.
What's your thought about, and that's great, thank you. What's your thought about the industry's ability to learn from what you guys have done and be very clear about, with consumers, about what data someone is collecting and what those uses are? Because most people, most people who want data have that 25-page terms of service. People don't read it. They just want to get to the end to use the site or use the app. I mean, do you feel like the industry has woken up to the value of doing what you guys have done, and they're gonna follow your lead?
That's a really good question. I mean, as I said, we've unboxed TVs from every other smart TV manufacturer in the United States, and we know that several of them are still not compliant and still not notifying their consumers during the setup process in a crystal clear and separate and prominent way. My guess is that for some of those manufacturers, it comes down to the value proposition, because not all of those manufacturers are in the data business. Right. What we do is fairly unique in terms of licensing data, so we frankly probably need to be a little more buttoned up than the average smart TV company. But by the same token, it's not easy. I mean, changing that policy, we lost 2 million TVs out of our overall footprint when we pushed the new notification.
Sure.
Because they were older TVs that didn't have enough processing power to actually support the user journey when we decided to make the opt-out process easier.
Yeah.
And so we had to just get rid of them. And the actual push, the process for pushing a firmware update to a TV is not, I mean, it's a pretty meaningful exercise. So I'm sure other manufacturers just did the math. Is it worth it or not? And so I think some of them went, not really.